So we're a little bit behind schedule, so I will ask George to cut your talk short. So we're going to start our second session in the morning, and we're going to start with Dr. George Shanti Kumar, who's the center of the director, and I know everybody knows you, but still I want to give a brief introduction about George. And he was a professor at UC Berkeley, everybody knows that, and he has an engineering background, and he's a well-known scholar in the field of operations management and industry engineering. And he has a long career, 39 years in academia, and how famous he is. If you have never read Dr. Shanti Kumar's book, Stochastic Orders, you cannot claim you know stochastic process. If you do not know the name of George Shanti Kumar, you cannot claim that you are an academia you work in academia as a PhD student or faculty in operations or applied probability. So that is George. And when you mention a character like that, you oftentimes think that they are the ones hiding behind the ivory tower, doing something that 99% of us would never understand. But George is the person who actually works close with practitioners to understand manufacturing and understand their puzzles. He had been working 18 years closely with manufacturers in the Bay Area, and specifically in semiconductor manufacturing. So if you are curious, you can try to Google SK Index or SK Innovation, named after Shanti Kumar, and you will find plenty of citations for that. And companies that he worked with makes tons of money for the innovation that he has developed. And he's the kind of person that if he want, he could use his ideas to make him very rich. But he didn't choose to do that. And what he did is come here, teach his classes, interacting with students, and try to make every effort possible to help enhancing our students' learning experience. And I can give you one example. I know George for a long time. I know he's a great scholar, but after I joined Granite, I was very impressed how much commitment he put to our students. Veralia, we had a student project lined up last month, and the only time the company management can get together to meet us is the Friday before Labor Day holiday. And George had his family in Los Angeles, his wife and 3 of his kids. And he canceled that trip to take the student to meet with Veralia team in Muncie. And he couldn't, because the ticket gets so expensive, he couldn't meet his family during that holiday. And that is George. And he's telling me not only because Veralia is an important partner for the center and for Granite, and we don't want to let our partner down, but also he doesn't want our student to go alone without faculty advisor. He wants to make sure that our students understands everything discussed in the meeting, and he will be able to come back and coach the student to the right direction. And that is George. And I will hand over to you.
But I also have to tell something about that, how I ended up going to Veralia and Muncie, because both of us were planning trips. She was going to go to Dallas and I was going to go to LA. And we said that it's very important for one of us to go to Veralia with our students, and naturally she said, that's you. And that's all. Okay, so just to speed up, I'm going to talk about the global supply chain management program that we are introducing. It will start in spring of 2013. And this is the description that I have. And Annabelle didn't think that this does a job. So she gave me some animation, which I'm going to go through. So I don't know anything about this, so I'm going to try. Okay. So the master's program is designed to be truly global. Anand mentioned about it a little bit, and the dean talked about it, and I'll try to animate and show you how much innovative ideas and how you can help also. So think about students, say 15 students at Tianjin University getting exposed in the spring semester to the basics of operations and supply chain management and a little bit of general business. And at the same time, there will be 15 students going through the same thing in Puebla, Mexico, and 15 more at IIM Udaipur, and 15 more at Purdue University. So these students are being trained according to the local wisdom of how operation supply chain management will be. And then all these 60 students are available for this program. So we are very selective. And then you can imagine what we are going to do is to select students, some students from Mexico, some from India, and some from US, may end up in China doing an internship, an experiential learning guided by a faculty, getting exposed to how the supply chain and operations works in China. So, for example, for this type, we already have American Axles willing to have internships arranged in Shanghai. Or we might have students coming from China and Mexico and India and US going to India to work at TVS. So what it is that you have your basic training in your different countries, in your fundamentals. Then you get to experience internship and experiential learning guided with the faculty, so that's important. So this is a faculty-directed internship experiential learning. And once they get this experience, then they come to Cranet and there will be a workshop. Essentially, I'm hoping that, again, there will be participants from the industry, sponsoring industry, students, all will get together and exchange the experience that they had. And then in the fall semester, they go through advanced training that is being developed here at Cranet. So Annabelle, Anand Iyer, so they will be taking all the courses from Gemma and Masha. Every one of our faculty, Suresh, everybody is dedicated to bringing advanced training for these students who have now international experience. So you can imagine that once those students go through these programs, they're going to have true global experience training from their own country, and then they essentially enlarge their training at Cranet. So this is a master's program. I'm very, very excited. We have been working hard to get partners, and we are still enlarging our partnership. We are working with other universities as well to give this. So you can ask, what is that you can contribute as industry, coming from industry partners? Definitely, in order for this to be successful, we have to have meaningful projects and internship offered by you. It's not something we can say, oh, you're going to do this in a classroom environment. We truly want your dedication to this program so that we can make it a success. So I'll come to how we can set it up in such a way that this is going to be a continuing partnership between an industry and Cranet. I'm going to provide a vehicle by which there will always be a faculty associated in a continuous basis with the company so that you can rely on them. So I'm excited about this program. As I said, we are going to launch this in spring 2013. So to do this, I'm going to now talk about internship experiential learning project relay. So if I don't want to go through the description, I'm going to speed up. So what do you do now? If you say you come, you recruit students for internships. You have been doing this month and last month. And once you recruit, they basically go through fall semester, spring semester, and probably they don't talk to you anymore. They know that they are going to go internship. You might have some conversations, some connections, but that's it. And in the summer, they come to you as interns. And once they finish the internship, they come back, and as a second year MBA or undergraduate senior, they finish, and then they get into employment. If you are lucky, you get to bring them back, and you really don't have, other than the contact that you had during the summer, you don't know how good, how dedicated they will be to your company. So even if you bring them, you really haven't evaluated them to see how long they are going to be with you in terms of how much interest they have in your company. So let us look at it how the master's program that I was talking about, as well as for other students, we can set up a system that truly going to give you the chance to have a mini program within Granite. In other words, instead of having a complete program where 40 students are going to be trained for you, we are going to select 5 or 6 students for your company that we will train for them, train for you. So look at it this way. Change the internship to internship experiential learning project. So you're identifying a project, and a faculty will work with the student who is coming to be an intern with you, and they get this experience. So now you already connected with the faculty and the student. And then when they come, what they are going to do is they are going to bring projects. Suppose you hire 2 students from Granite. They now working with the faculty. They will coach up and saying, okay, why don't you look for this type of projects? Do they have any problems that you may be interested? So it is working with an internal champion from the company, with your interns and the faculty. They bring a project. Now, this project is going to be tagged with additional students, because if you only had 1 intern come back to Granite, coming back with the project, now there will be 4 or 5 other students who will join. So we are going to increase the number of students that will be focused on your company. They would then, during the fall semester, they will have deliverable. In December, they'll come back and give you a presentation. So now, the intern that you hired, not only during the summer, they're going to work with you in fall semester. Then the interesting part is that they become, now you have got new rookies that you hired for the subsequent year. What you're going to do is, these students who did the project become mentors for the rookies. So now, the ones that you recruited, end of the fall semester, beginning of spring semester itself is going to be trained to say, you're going to John Deere, this is the project we did, this is the continuation of the project. So they already be prepared when they show up for this internship. So if you look at it carefully, what is this? Oops, it's a relay. So, okay. So what you are seeing is, you hire the rookies, then they bring a project, they become mentors, they hand over the baton to the new rookies. So this is year after year, faculty is going to be here, students are going to go through, and you will always have a connection to Granite. So I'm hoping that I have few of you already shown support for this, thinking about working with Granite, and I hope all of you will think seriously of working with us on this. And that's it.
You can keep clicking.
Okay. Okay, thank you, George. Okay.
Thank you, George. Thank you, George. So we can try to keep on our schedule and have our next featured speaker introduced. Brandon Peacher, Chief Sustainability Officer at Five Kingdom, and he has been, for many years, diligently pushing the boundaries of sustainability. And he was the Green Entrepreneur for 2010, and now he's moving on to Blue Economy. And we're very happy to have you here, Brandon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will switch you on.
Everybody hear me okay? If I start talking too fast, just tell me to slow down. But I do thank you for having me at Purdue again. I gave my first lecture on sustainability at Purdue University probably 12 years ago. And some of those students have gone on to do some pretty good things. One of them is now in charge of solar energy for General Electric. Another one is getting the first PhD from Yale University in industrial symbiosis. So I like to think Purdue did a good job raising them, and I kind of got them over the hump, right? So anyway, so I state here, humanity cannot expect the Earth to produce more. We must do more with what the Earth produces. What I mean by that is, the Earth's carrying capacity is already at its kind of limits, So we must learn to be more innovative and creative with the resources we have and stop throwing away about 90% of our resources. Because today, when we spend $1 in the United States, about 80 to 90% of that dollar goes towards waste, whether that's packaging or inefficient lighting or whatever that may be. And we wonder why we're in this kind of economic problem we're in. So I'll kind of move quickly through that. Again, who am I? You don't have to worry too much. I'm XERI certified. I'll get into that in a minute. I've been trained in most of the lead sustainability initiatives from cradle to cradle to biomimicry to natural step. I've done lead buildings. I've done these type of things. Did over 400 workshops around the world, including Yale, MIT, Royal Academy of Sciences in Sweden, Tokyo, United Nations University, and I do not have a degree. All right, so here we go. What is XERI? XERI stands for Zero Emissions Research and Initiatives. We are beyond zero waste. That we have to go beyond that and beyond zero landfill. We were founded in 1994 at the United Nations University by my mentor, Gunter Pauli, who I'll show you a little bit more about him in a minute. And we're a network of thousands of scientists, entrepreneurs, and activists around the world. Today, we probably have projects in around 60 countries showcasing how to achieve zero emissions. This is my mentor. He built the first ecological factory in the world. This is in Belgium in 1992 for Ecover. Grass roofs, all reused materials, very nice on the inside, sunlight. You have the wetlands, water filtration systems and all that. What he found, though, was even though he built one of the best factories in the world and built a product called Ecover, which is a natural detergent, which is a non-toxic detergent to clean our clothes and things like that, and he was very competitive. He found he was still depleting the habitat of the orangutan in Borneo because they were using palm oil to use instead of using the toxic chemicals. And so he quit Ecover at that point when he realized all he was doing was less bad. He wasn't really doing good. And so if we really get to sustainability, we must do good. We have to stop doing less bad, right? And what I mean by that, I'll go through some projects and explain. But what we look at this as zero emissions going to, and I'm not going to go through this, but the bottom one, number 3, is really a new economic model capable of offering the best at cheaper prices, able to increase productivity while creating jobs, successful in generating more cash flow as a whole rather than the sum of the individual businesses, and reduce the risk of innovation while introducing breakthrough technologies. That's what we need to move towards if we want to achieve sustainability in industry. I'll get into some projects. This is a project that we did for Subway. This is their 5th green building in the world, and only one made out of 100% reused material on the exterior from buildings that were deconstructed in the state of Indiana. Move through this pretty quickly, just showing we used a brownfield where a building had burned. We didn't use a greenfield site here. Here's the building, 100% reused material again on the exterior except for the lights and maybe the signage. But the only fast food restaurant we know in the world to be built out of 100% reused exterior structural material. Insides, we use daylight harvesting, so when the sunlight comes in south-facing, we no longer have to use the lights, so no more electricity consumption for that. It's very important if we can do that. Why use lights when you don't need it? Why pay for wasted energy? This was something that was very innovative in this project that I wasn't sure. Again, back to I probably had some of the beer from your bottles that night when I came up with this idea. I wanted to have the community or the customer get involved in the sustainability initiatives. So we have a real-time power usage monitor, so we monitor all the electricity usage of the building. So when you order a sandwich, if they have to use the microwave, you can see in real time that bump, so the customer knows what that is. That also translates into the carbon footprint at the coal plant, so they know what your carbon emissions are when you make a sandwich at Subway. Right? I didn't realize this was very innovative. This got cover of front page magazines and all that stuff because you're getting people involved in it. You know. Energy recovery ventilators for HVAC systems, simple, save about 7 to 10% on energy. This is not a new technology, just mixes, you know, outdoor fresh air with already heated or cooled air. Toilets, low flow, down for number 1, up for number 2. You have to label that so people know what's going on, you know, these type of things. Very simple technologies, again, tankless hot water heaters, so not a whole lot of innovation in those type of things. But this is what I really enjoy doing the most, is when you get nature and people back involved in the projects, right? In our community, we have combined sewer overflows. And so in this case, we chose not to connect to the sewer system or for the stormwater, okay? And so we had the school here, which is the most poverty-stricken school in our county. We brought about 40 students in. We planted 3,000 native plants to deal with the stormwater on site. So we're bringing biodiversity back into Subway's business. You know, and now I'm working with corporate Subway. This model they want to take globally. You know. So this is what's happening. You do this, right? You do a good deed, and this is the first year of life. Biodiversity comes back. You know, you're bringing back the species, treating its water. But if you don't control the whole chain of management, you know, I say no good deed goes unpunished, and it ends up like this, right? The first year, because what happens is the people who manage these subways, this is the largest subway owner in the state of Indiana, they just go in and do all their winterizing. So they didn't realize they didn't need to do that here. So this would have been a $7,000 mistake, but actually the plants survived the winter. They want to live. Nature wants to live. It's a good thing. So anyways, that's the first subway. Now, define sustainability a little bit. Sustainable society is one that satisfies needs without diminishing the prospects of future generations. This is the basic definition I was trained on when I got into sustainability. Well, what you find out is it's lacking, right? This only includes human beings in the definition. Human beings don't sustain the planet. Nature does. And so we need to design communities in a manner that our ways of life, technologies, and institutions honor, support, and cooperate with nature's inherent ability to sustain life. That's what we need to move towards, and that's what we're working on. So our planet could be unrecognizable by 2050. If business continues as usual, the trends that we say today, you know, in our lifetime, we're not going to be able to recognize our planet. You know, we're going to consume resources faster than the Earth's ever going to regenerate them. Well, it's up to us to change this. So the symbol I leave there is the Chinese symbol for crisis. One side danger, the other side opportunity. I see opportunity. This is the largest opportunity in human history to do good and to make money at the same time. So as we know, the population is going up. From the time I wake up today to the time I wake up tomorrow, we will add 250,000 people net gain to planet Earth, which basically means, you know, every week we got to build a city larger than the size of Indianapolis for food, energy, healthcare, water, shelter, and education for all these people. The challenge is also to meet the needs of the unreached. Over half the world goes without their basic needs on a daily basis. You know, we are not living in a sustainable planet today, so trying to sustain what we're doing today is not going to get there. We have to innovate and change. But this also means the largest opportunity for job creation on the planet, to be able to meet the basic needs for humanity as we grow up. Excuse me. So the red economy, which is focused on core businesses, pushes for ever lower marginal costs through economies of scale. But also, there's an economy based on what we do not have, right? We wonder why we're in the recession we are in today. It was based on scarcity. Nature is not scarce. Nature is abundant. So we must change our model. The green economy, well, this one has failed, as we know that. We're moving forward. The green economy, well, you know, it's all right. People like it. I'm a green guy. Won green awards, but green energy costs more, right? Healthy products cost more. Whatever is good for the environment is expensive, right? That's never going to take off. You know, it can't. You know, if you're asking people to do that, especially while we're going broke, it's not possible. You know, sustainability has to make economic sense at the same time. I mean, our governments are going broke, so all these subsidies need to be paid back, or they're not going to be able to even give them to us anymore. So we can't have a business model based on subsidization. We also, as an entrepreneur, if you try to go do projects, if you have a 10-year payback, 15-year payback, a 20-year payback, nobody's going to loan me money. You know, how am I going to get the project done? You know, so lower returns get no capital. We have to change the game. So now we'll introduce you to the blue economy, which is a report to the Club of Rome, which any of you are familiar with the Club of Rome, they came out with the first book called Limits to Growth, which was the first basically treatise of industrialists that came out to say we are consuming resources faster than the Earth is regenerating them. And a man named Aurelio Pache was the president of Fiat at the time, was the founder of the Club of Rome, who was the mentor of my mentor, Gunther Pauli. So anyways, the book, if you read the tagline, I apologize, it says 10 years, 100 innovations, 100 million jobs. In this book, there are 100 technologies that we believe fit within the blue economy principles that will lead to sustainability and 100 million jobs globally if we adopt these practices. So steering business towards sustainability, it's not about good or bad. It's not about conservative or progressive, or even green or blue. It's about doing better, much better. I believe the man from Subaru mentioned continuous improvement. Zero emissions is built on the Japanese principles of Kaizen and lean manufacturing, total quality management, Six Sigma, all these things, but it's taking it to the next level. Talk a little bit about this, just show you some quick pictures here. I like to show these slides mainly because if we're talking about sustainability in America, and again, this is in Germany, but our infrastructure is failing. It's falling apart. The numbers are $2 to $3 trillion need to be invested in the United States just to keep our infrastructure going. Nobody talks about this, right? We are a great country, and the reason why people want to come here is because we had infrastructure that worked. We had energy, we had water, we have roads. They're falling apart. Right? If we don't reinvest in these things in a sustainable manner, we're not going to have a very good country here in the next decade or two. So I show these two pictures because we show third world and first world. Over here on the left, you see these people go to the bathroom on the river. They know exactly where their waste is going. These people on the right, on these high-rise buildings, flush their toilet. There's no wastewater treatment plant in this city. All their waste still goes into the river, but they don't know it. They think it's magically being treated, and it's not. So we've got to change these systems. So I show this picture here. Anybody notice the bird? Anybody know where this is by any chance? This is Brussels, Belgium, capital of the EU, right? No wastewater treatment plant until 2007, right? Europeans are not that further ahead of us. They have more of a green sentimentality. But I used to live in Torino, Italy, still no wastewater treatment plant, right? Milan, Italy, no wastewater treatment plant. Water is more important than probably anything else on the planet. So when we get serious, we will treat our water properly. So I'll move into something else real quick, and then I'll go back into more infrastructure stuff. But I have a question. Anybody know why a zebra has stripes? Camouflage is one, right? Does anybody know that it's air conditioning? Right? It's the most effective form of air conditioning nature's developed, the black and white stripe. Because what happens is when the black and white changes, you have a temperature differential. From that temperature differential, you get pressure differential. From that, you get little vortexes of wind on the height of the zebra, which causes a 9 degrees Celsius temperature drop from the ambient air to the height of the zebra. And what happens in that little bird gets free air conditioning now. So nature is symbiotic in relationships. Also, the black stripe has a thin layer of fat for insulation because it heats up more. Just like the white stripe does not have it. Nature is very effective and efficient. So how can we have cool air without air conditioning? Anybody know what that is? Termite mound, right? Well, what do termite mounds do? They stay the same temperature constantly, 24 hours a day, all year long, no matter what the outside air is. Why is that? No moving parts. It's a network of tunnels. So this is a project in Zimbabwe, 8-story apartment complex, which is actually also the first 2 floors are 3M's African headquarters. No moving parts for air conditioning. It uses a network of tunnels and chimneys. You have to have all those chimneys. Utilizing fresh air flow, which I'll explain how that works here on another project. For sake of time. Here you see the same concept being used at a hospital on the equator called Las Gaviotas. This is considered the most sustainable village in the world. And I had the privilege of going there in 2005. We were the first Americans allowed in over a decade. The hospital, actually, what makes this hospital even cooler is the roof retracts and allows direct sunlight come in, and so there's no MRSA, right? And the best antiseptic on the planet is sunlight. When you go into a hospital without sunlight, run, because you're going to get a disease worse than what you came in there with. Okay, it's this same air conditioning system used on a retrofitted building. It's a public school in northern Sweden, so you can see it used all across the world in different environments. Again, you have to have the chimneys, tunnel going through, about 3 feet in diameter. Doesn't have to be, but you want it to be just so a small man can get in there in case something happens, any troubleshooting. It also works in the winter because what's going on is you got 54-degree temperature underground all year long. So in the winter, instead of having to heat it up from -40 like it does here up to 68 or 72 or whatever, you just have to heat it from 54 up. So it reduces 60% of energy needs for heating. Here you see the flow. This is what's going on. So airflow comes in. It's all about physics, right? And you use the convection. You have the black chimneys, you know, moving around here. So you mix the black and the white stripes as well in the technology when you're doing it. And also what's going on in this school, in the gymnasium, I like to show this because most of the times when you go in these gymnasiums, people get all hot, muggy, and sweaty and uncomfortable. Well, the opposite happens here. The more people you have, the more airflow you get, the cooler it gets. You know? What keeps the human body comfortable is a temperature differential between our toes and our nose, right? And right now, we try to push the air from up here. Never reaches my toes. I'm always uncomfortable. Try to push more down. Instead, I need to come up like this, and that way I don't consume as much energy. Same concepts used at a 5-star hotel. You know, kings and queens and billionaires stay here, and they don't complain about their air conditioning. Right? It works. So my favorite commercial project, this is a Ford dealership, a McDonald's, and a Stat Oil integrated into one site. Here you see it from here. Now we get a little closer. Here's the Ford dealership. Now you're seeing the green roofs on the top, modular, so there's no waste on site. Here you're seeing the air conditioning system that's used as well in the building. And the chimney's got some solar collectors integrated into the building. Grasscrete parking lots. It's very important. Instead of just getting this illusion that permeable pavement is good for us, we don't want to recharge our aquifers with polluted water, so the roots will collect some of those toxins from the cars before that water gets into recharge our aquifer with poison. Also notice on the left what's called a bioswale. You know, which no reason to move water through pipes. Go out in nature. You're in nature, water never moves through a straight line. You know, water actually gets destroyed when you move it through a straight line. You know, water cleanses itself moving in a vortex. So whenever we run it through pipes like that, we're actually keeping water dirty and unhealthy. Just a better look at that. But this is now approved to use in Indiana. Air filtration systems built around plants and bacteria. Plantair.com if you're interested, with an E at the end. Very successful company, selling these now all across the world. Here you see them also utilizing them in the mechanics area. It's very important that you can do that, and it makes a lot of sense. Toilets here, they're using 100% resource of nutrient human waste on site. They collect it and compost it and reuse it for fertilizer. But here you have 100% renewable energy to power the buildings. 100% reduction for air conditioning because of that termite mound air conditioning system you saw. Reduction in heating by 60% because of that same technology. Overall, 60% reduction in electricity consumption for all 3 buildings, and 99% reused and recycled materials to construct the whole site. My favorite thing to talk about is the water side, because to me water is the most important issue. And so we talk about surface water collection 100%. And if we start to reduce our use of the fresh water from the public, if we all started doing this, our tax dollars go down because that infrastructure issue I talked about is failing, so they're going to keep charging us more and more money to solve these problems. But if us as businesses and individuals take the responsibility to treat these things properly on site, we reduce the demand on our taxes, right? And then we as a country can get wealthier per people. You know, we can tell the government, no, you don't need our money. You know? That's my Republican side. And so reuse of nutrients, again, from the toilet, 100%. And then what also happens here is the compulsory environmental training, the certification, environmental aware administration. But what happened that nobody noticed in this project was by investing in this, they put their money where their mouth was, and the market reacted by making them the #1 seller of flex fuel vehicles in all the Nordic countries. Right? And so by doing this, by creating a dealership like this, they now became the #1 seller. And now they're moving on to Green Zone 2, which will be even more exciting than this one. This building utilized the same technologies that we went through. This is the world's largest home builder's headquarters, called Daiwa House in Sendai, Japan. They're probably not the largest home builder now because of the Fukushima incident and things like that. But at one time, they were building 52,000 houses a year. They utilized those same technologies. They built the building white, and I apologize, I don't have a picture of the roof, but there are black stripes put in the right place. In this case, they have a 5°C temperature differential on the rooftop than the ambient temperature outside. That means they don't have to cool or heat their building that much, just because of using black and white stripes. In the green building movement, they always told me to use either a green roof or white roofs. Right? Well, white roofs are just reflective. Using the black and white, we actually get more flow. We're using physics to solve problems. Here you see the building. This is the Daiwa House. I'm not going to go into that because time-wise. So why are so many efforts to move society towards sustainability failing? A lot of great ideas, a lot of smart people in the world, you know. But it's mainly because we continue to substitute molecules for molecules and the processes for the process. We refuse to see that we need to substitute the systems with the systems. What do I mean by that? Well, take the case of this. It says plant bottom on it, right? So perfect. So what does that mean? That means they probably made this from a polylactic acid made out of a genetically modified corn that depletes the Oglala aquifer. But they claim it's biodegradable. So they play on your emotions that it's sustainable, but it's not. What does biodegradability have to do with sustainability? Nothing, right? This is GMO, you know, and you know, very, you know, not socially positive and everything else. So it's only substituting the molecule for the molecule, not substituting the system for the system, right? I'd rather use the petroleum bottle. So how do we design a system? So let's move into that. Today, almost every magazine you read about sustainability stuff is all pushed out. 40 to 60% of all of our organic foodstuffs ends up as waste, usually before it even hits our table. You know, and right now, it's just going out and escaping into usually landfills, turning into methane into greenhouse gas emissions. So we use the 5 kingdoms of nature to design systems. Anybody know what the 5 kingdoms of nature are? Bacteria, algae, plants, animals, and fungus. Right? How they interact in nature to create sustainability on this planet is how we should mimic our designs for our industrial systems the same to meet our basic needs. So, anybody know who says this quote? I'm a firm believer in the people. If given the truth, they can be depended upon to meet any national crisis. The great point is bringing the real facts in beer. Anyone know? Abraham Lincoln. So, I agree with him. All right, let's move to the next slide. So, all right, so this is traditional. What I would, you know, I went to Harvard Business School. This is how they teach me to design a brewery. All right, very linear model. Don't worry about the externalities. You know, what goes in, what comes out goes waste. You know, so CO2 usually goes in the atmosphere. The wastewater and spent hops usually your sewage treatment plant. People go, oh, that's